We are good.
Okay. I'm going to call this May 13th special meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Walton, would you roll call, please?
Mr. Wade. Here. Mr. Battani. Absent. Mrs. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Frederickson. Absent. Mr. Walton here. Mr. St. Ange. Absent. Mrs. Edwards.
Here.
4 members.
Do we have any additions or deletions to our agenda?
We do not.
Okay, so that brings us to new business and call to ballot.
The Board of Education from time to time may finance its capital improvements through the issuance of debt obligations. Policy 6145 states that borrowed funds will be approved by the board. Policy 6146 addresses procedures and systems designed to identify and demonstrate compliance with requirements that must be satisfied subsequent to the issuance of these obligations. At this time, the board finds it necessary to ask the voters whether to approve a bond project to provide improvements to the school facilities.
Mrs. Edwards.
Yes, Mr. Walton.
Let's go right into reading it, right? Whereas, in the opinion of this board, it is necessary and expedient to ask voters whether to approve a bond project consisting of erecting, furnishing, and equipping additions to the high school building, remodeling, furnishing, and refurnishing, and equipping and re-equipping school buildings, and erecting, preparing, developing, improving, and equipping playgrounds, athletic fields, facilities, and structures and sites. This board estimates the necessary cost of this project to be $23,385,921, and it will be necessary for the district to borrow the sum of $22,680,000 and issue the bonds of the district. Therefore, the remaining funds to be derived from the investment of the bond proceeds. Number 2, this board is further of the opinion that it is necessary and expedient to ask voters whether to approve a bond project consisting of erecting, furnishing, and equipping an addition to the primary school building, remodeling school buildings, and preparing, developing, and improving playgrounds, athletic fields, and sites. This board estimates the necessary cost of the project to be $10,430,579, and it will be necessary for the district to borrow the sum of $10,050,000 and issue the bonds of the district. Therefore, the remaining funds to be derived from the investment of the bond proceeds. This board intends to submit one or more propositions at a special election to be held on Tuesday, August 6th, 2024. On or before 4 p.m. on Tuesday, May 14th, 2024, the board shall certify any ballot proposition to be submitted to the voters at such election to the election coordinator or coordinators designated to conduct elections within the district. Now therefore be it resolved that 1, a special election to the school electors of the district be called and held on Tuesday, August 6th, 2024. 2, the propositions to be voted on at the special election shall be stated on the ballots in substantially the form as set forth in Exhibit A. 3, the election coordinator is requested to A, utilize Tri-City Times, a newspaper published or of general circulation within the district, for publication of notices in accordance with the election law requirements. B, utilize ballot proposition summary information as prepared by legal counsel in the forms of the notices of last day of registration and election in substantially the form as set forth in Exhibit B attached hereto. C, provide a proof copy of the ballots to the district and its legal counsel in sufficient time to allow the ballots to be proofread prior to printing. 4, this board estimates the period of usefulness of the improvements for which the bonds of the district in the amount of $22,680,000 are to be issued to be not less than 30 years, and this board further estimates the period of usefulness of the improvements for which bonds of the district in the amount of $10,050,000 are to be issued to be not less than 30 years. 5, the secretary of this board is hereby authorized and directed to file a copy of this resolution with the election coordinator and with any election clerk or clerks designated to conduct elections within the district by 4 p.m. on Tuesday, May 14, 2024. 6, all resolutions and parts of resolutions insofar as they conflict with provisions of this resolution are hereby rescinded.
Support.
Motion and support, is there any discussion? I'll talk. This district desperately needs a bond, and it doesn't just need, one part of it, it needs both parts, so I hope that that's recognized, that we've done our, hard work in trying to communicate and get feedback, and, I believe both parts that we're presenting to the community is what the district needs. Roll call.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Walton? Aye. Mrs. Edwards?
Aye.
4 ayes.
Brings us to our only questions and comments from the audience. Just, I don't have the rules, just a reminder, your questions and comments are limited to 3 minutes.
I have comments, you may have to cut me off. My name's Lana Walker, and I'd like to address some concerns I have regarding the parent steering committee that we had requested last fall to be started and it was implemented. I am very disappointed in the way in which our meetings have gone, in the way in which we have been disrespected as a whole, and myself in particular. I'm not disappointed in the topics that we were presented to talk about, but the way in which our meetings were led were done very poorly. And I also, on top of it, have some personal concerns about the controversial topics that I learned about being discussed and happening in some of the older grades. So with that being said, I have some dates and examples from each meeting of things that have had happen to us. But the policy asked that this program be started to provide effective intervention for the well-being of students. But since then, we've had 4 committee meetings, 0 interventions have been done. All we have done is debated and had to provide some type of reasoning as to where we stood as parents, rather than implementing some type of change for the well-being of the students. Our first meeting was in fall of 2023. We were asked what we thought our role might be and our level of involvement for outside programs and how involved we wanted to be. We as a group said, as involved as you need us to be as parents. We will do anything you want, we'll do whatever you need us to do. However, after that, there were no goals, no guidelines, no procedures, no potential examples of how we'd go about decision-making in our meetings. That wasn't discussed or provided in writing at all. In our second meeting, we were given a handout about the State Board of Education statement and guidance on safe and supportive learning environments for LGBTQ students. With that being said, we were basically just given a handout, no discussion, no what would intervention be from us whatsoever, just kind of leaving us in the dark. The third meeting, Nancy Boxley gave us a presentation on the YAC survey and why the survey counts were low. We're given an agenda at the start of these meetings, and we're not told, here's a potential reason why, here's what they're going to be presenting on, here's what we think your role might be as parents. They just give us a spiel on their presentation, and then we're just standing there like, okay. Nancy Boxley told us at the end of it that she thought our opt-in request that you guys had granted to us last year was the reason why those surveys had a low response rate. So we were there defending ourselves as parents and not having any effective intervention for why Nancy Boxley was there and or these surveys. And if you guys read the surveys, there's a lot of controversial topics on them. And for the first time, they were being put in front of parents' eyes for them to say yes or no. So maybe the response rate was low because of that. If you read through it as a 7th grader, I wouldn't let mine do it. Our 4th meeting, which was May 9th, which was a disaster. It was ran poorly. We were given again an agenda. Staff shows up to these meetings and they know what's on the agenda. They have a presentation sometimes to be telling us about. We walk in as parents, as the reason why the committee was started was us. We requested it and we know nothing. Nothing about what's on the agenda, what our role is, what we're gonna say. We're constantly defending ourselves and our morality. But we're here to support our students. We want a role and we're asking you to give us a role. Give us a task. We're here, we're present, we're gonna do anything. But instead, we are pushed back against each meeting, each time. That meeting in particular, we discussed the Positivity Project rollout in the middle school, which led to nowhere. We discussed the OP classroom libraries, which got into a little bit of a debate because my husband and I, once we saw that they had requested the grant for that and it was pending, we said, please let us be a part of it with you. How does it go about, these books are gonna be in the little kids' classrooms in the OP that they can go grab with no, you know, and I had asked how is it going to be selected. We asked a lot of questions. However, Casey Ellen left, but we asked the superintendent to keep us involved. Once we knew there was a new principal on our own, we emailed him and said, please let us be involved. We know the grant is still pending. If you know anything, please let us know. No communication. I walked into that last meeting and I'm a committee member. I'm actually the reason that it got started. Didn't know anything about OP classroom libraries and it was already granted. The books were already purchased. So I said, well, what the heck? We asked you to be a part of it. Instead, it was thrown in my face that they trust the staff. I trust the staff too. I love the teachers that my kids have had. I love them. I have a lot of respect for them, and this has nothing to do with them. But we will not blindly trust all the staff. That's not how it works. These are my kids. These are my babies. I don't blindly trust anybody with them. So again, another point of just complete and utter disrespect and excuses, and that just ends and we go into the next topic. There was no, I'm sorry, Mrs. Walker, how can we go about this better next time? Unprofessional, if you ask me. Then the next topic was about Mrs. Skinner's poem. Her 7th grade poem.
Sorry, no, that was me trying to fix it.
Okay. Which led to a parent complaint because it was talking about justice for all and read transgender and non-binary. And is that it?
Over 3 minutes.
I'll give her my 3 minutes.
No, that's not the way it works.
All right, then, Michelle, I'll read from that too.
We're right here.
Okay. All right, Dan Walker. Since we're abiding by 3 minutes now, Mr. Walton. The next topic discussed was a controversial poem that was read to Mrs. Skinner's 7th grade class, which resulted in a complaint from a parent a week or so prior to this meeting on the 9th. During the meeting, policy 9130 was referenced regarding the situation, and the superintendent explained that a process was followed and a decision was made to keep the poem in the lesson, but to remove that student from the lesson for the future. Policy 9130 states that criticism is to be addressed to the principal in writing and shall include a list of things you can reference in the policy. Section B of that policy states, appoint a review committee. Was this ever done? I don't think so. Section F states that the committee recommendation shall be reported to the superintendent in writing within 10 business days of the committee formation. Section F also states the superintendent will advise the complainant in writing of the committee's recommendation and advise the board of the action taken or recommended. I don't believe this was done either. Policy 2240 addresses controversial issues given but not really discussed in detail. In summary, as a parent steering committee member and fellow parent, I feel completely disrespected. I not only see concerns with the way these meetings have gone, but also with the way in which the school is headed. As a parent, if my prerogative is keeping my children innocent as long as possible, I have a lifelong obligation to my children. The school does not. It's my expectation that a hired professional would use discernment as the adult in the classroom and make decisions based on what they are teaching to as a whole and not based on their own personal beliefs. We did email Mrs. Vaughn after our 3rd meeting expressing the concerns about what had happened, and again to make sure she was aware. Just because society is changing does not mean that we have to comply with the new norms and the lower standards that we see fit for our family. We are not the first, nor will we be the last parents with these concerns that the school has stepped out of educational bounds. The events that have unfolded in the last year have led us to the conclusion that the school has overstepped their role and our children will not be enrolled in Almont Community Schools in the fall. I hope this raises concerns to the board, superintendent, and staff that parents are very aware and paying closer attention to what is going on. Parental involvement should not be seen as a threat. It should be seen as an asset. The staff should not see this committee or any parental involvement as a threat. We're requesting that the Parent Steering Committee have more definitive goals set for future meetings. And we say this because every time we walked in there were new staff, new members, and random agenda items. We would also request that the school board review the controversial poem that led to parental complaint in Mrs. Skinner's 7th grade class and decide whether or not that is actually appropriate content for the minds of children who are still developing, or if policy was followed. Furthermore, going off script for me, and I believe that somebody else will speak to it, I was made aware of, go ahead, God forbid.
Sorry, Mr. Walker.
I'll finish that, Dan, for you. Amber Mayor, it was brought to my attention, that an 8th grade teacher told a student in her class, that Jesus was a fictional character. And that's mind-blowing, that a teacher would say that to a student. It's disturbing. I'm heartbroken where this district has gone. We can't, there's nobody we can go to. We can't go to the school board. We can't go to the superintendent. All of our issues that we're concerned about gets ignored. So we're at a loss. And like I said, the teachers are getting, they're standing behind these teachers that are stepping way out of bounds. And us as parents, we don't know what to do, because we're not getting any help from the board, which we elected you guys into your position to help our district. And it must be an eye-opener of all the kids that are leaving this district and all the staff members that are leaving this district. That's got to be an eye-opener to you guys. That's all.
Yeah, Kevin Weiss, I'm just here to support the parents too. I mean, you guys asked, we've asked to be involved in stuff. I don't get involved as much as I want to, but you know, all this is very important to me. Some of you are very aware that, you know, I pulled my daughter from this district for some reasons. You know, I still have a son in the OP, and I mean, the direction of it's going, I don't want to have to pull him as well over this, you know, us getting pushed aside. What we're teaching at home all of a sudden isn't good enough, and you guys decide that you get to instill the values in our children. If what I'm hearing is true, which I didn't just hear it from these guys, I've heard it from all over. I mean, that is disheartening, and it's not fair to for me to keep telling my kids to come in and respect everybody, because everybody's different, respect them and go, but then they get told they're wrong, possibly, you know, disciplinary action if they offend anybody, but yet nobody cares if they're offended. So that is a problem and a concern for me. Thank you.
Questions, comments from the board?
May I
So-
make a comment before? In public, can I do that or not as a taxpayer?
Can you,
Can I make a comment?
sure.
I'm the principal here, and some of this information is brand new to me. And I would have liked to have been contacted, hearing some of this information. I'd also like to let it be known that we have a Bible study that meets right over there behind Mr. Walton every Friday, that has been started by a group of youngsters in this high school and approved by the principal and the school administration as a student-led group. So I just want to make it known that there's no intention of exclusion, and that if you'd like to talk about this high school situation, I'd be willing to do so.
Wait, were you gonna say something?
Maybe, yeah, just, if we're at board comment.
Yep.
So I guess just a little bit piggybacking off of Mr. Shiflett, there's only one item that was brought up recently to us. So, just Ms. Vaughn, if you'll make sure that, you know, these get looked at and reviewed, and that hopefully as some of the policy that was stated, that the order of escalation is followed. I mean, I'll speak to my personal experience as a parent of 3. I've never had an issue with any of the content that's been taught to my kids through all of the years here at the school. Not to say that it doesn't happen, but there is a way to review that. We have had some things about books before that have been brought up, and ensure that there's a process to review those, that they're at the age appropriate levels. And I'll ask that you just double check that that process is still being followed. I imagine it's probably already being looked at.
Absolutely.
Mrs. Edwards?
Yes.
Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for being a voice for your children. Sometimes it's very frustrating from this side. There's a lot of processes and policies and steps that we have to follow. We are working hard for you guys and for your kids, and for the community, and really trying to do the best that we can. So please keep coming. Please keep coming to meetings. Please keep involved. Keep being voices. And again, what Mr. Walton said, hopefully everything was well. We can look into that further. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Mrs. Smith said. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being voices for not only our children, but all of our children. There's never too much community and parental involvement, and I think our district has always proven that our parent involvement is one of our biggest assets. And send us emails, well, go through the chain of command, but keep Ms. Vaughn informed, and your building principal or your child's teacher of what's going on, because some of the things being spoke about, everything being spoke about tonight, I did not hear through proper channels. So that's the only thing that I would request, is we can't act on things that we are not, that haven't followed the correct chain of command. So I would just ask that you.
What's the proper chain? Sorry, what's the?
The chain of command would be, first go to the teacher with your issue, and if it isn't resolved at that level, then the building principal, and then the superintendent.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
I just wanted to, again, thank everyone as well for coming tonight. The feedback is very helpful. There are things that are ongoing, and as far as what's been communicated tonight, we are following some policies. We're checking up on some recent reports, so it does take time to resolve some of these matters, but they will be followed through, absolutely. I'm also looking forward to, at least I have 3 parent meetings to follow up on the parent steering committee meeting that we had on May 9th. So I look forward to meeting with those parents as well for a resolution. So again, thank you parents for coming tonight, and I do look forward to the feedback, the honest feedback, so that we can work together to continue to do great things for our students. And that is across the board, that's K-12. So thank you very much.
Anyone else? Future agenda items. I actually, after Mr. Walton was talking about the library books, early last year, we had talked about having books checked out. There was a way to link them to
Mrs. Edwards?
Yes.
I move the special meeting of the Board of Education be adjourned at 6:56 PM on Monday, May 15th, 2024.
Support. Motion support, all in favor?